Today we're going to talk about how to wholesale real estate with no money down. So most people that get started in real estate are saying, how can I leverage? How can I get in with as little money as possible and make as much money possible as I can? And so zero down real estate is really attractive, but you've got to be pretty smart about it and you've got to be very strategic about it. Now, one of the ways you can do this is through wholesaling. And so we're going to talk about wholesaling and how to do it with no money down. Now, if you've got a question you'd like to have me answer just like this one, type it in the comments below. You can ask any question. I'll put a video together just like this for you and for all of my other subscribers on YouTube and anybody else who wants to see it, which, by the way, if you're not a subscriber, you should be. It's easy to do and it's free. Consider subscribing. So, wholesaling real estate is the matter of getting a property under contract and selling that contract. So the idea is you just have to find the property. You don't have to do the rehab. You don't have to resell the property. You're just finding the property. And then you're finding somebody that wants to buy that property from you the way it sits, and you make a little spread in between. Now there's multiple ways to wholesale where you actually sell the contract, or where you do a simultaneous close, or where you do a double closing. There's multiple ways to do that. It's going to vary based upon state and based upon individual circumstances. But the concept here is you're going out and finding a motivated seller. You're putting that motivated seller under contract. You're then finding a cash buyer or somebody that's getting a hard money loan, and you're selling them that contract or you're selling them that property for more than you paid for it. So let's say you put a property under contract for $180,000, and you've got a rehabber that's willing to spend $200,000 on that property. You're going to make a $20,000 spread. If you're doing a double closing, there'll be some title fees you'll be responsible for on that as well. However, lots of wholesalers pass those title fees on to the new buyer, and the new buyer is responsible for those. But that way, you can literally do a deal with no money out of your pocket because you're not even closing on the property. This also works really well for people who have bad credit or poor credit or have issues or blemishes. The idea of going and finding a property and putting it under contract and then wholesaling that to another buyer. So there's some elements of this, right? First off, you have to find a good deal. So how are you going to find a good deal? Well, you can't just go on the MLS and say, I'm just going to pick one off, just like going to the grocery store and finding a candy bar. It just doesn't work like that. You have to go after off-market properties. So these are going to be properties that are not listed on the multiple listing service. So how's that going to work? Well, you have to find somebody that has equity and somebody that has motivation. Equity being the difference between what is owed on the property and what the property may be worth once it's fixed up is considered equity. Then you've got to talk motivation. Motivation means this is somebody that would rather sell their house the way it sits than fixing the property up and selling it at a higher price. You see, you're not going after somebody you're trying to talk them in or deceive them as to why their house is not worth what it's worth. What you're trying to do is say, hey, would you be interested in selling the property as is, getting speed and convenience, and getting that over getting a higher price? And some people, and there's a lot of them out there, say, yes, I would. I'd rather not spend the money. I'd rather not hire an agent. I'd rather not have people come through the property. I'd rather that my neighbors don't know what's going on. I'd rather that I don't have to go through my grandfather's or my father's belongings because it's too painful. I'll just take a few things and you guys take care of the rest. There's lots of reasons for motivations. Maybe somebody's out of state. Maybe it's a property that's been a rental property and it's just too emotionally draining and they don't want to spend more time or money fixing the property up. There's so many different reasons. The list goes on and on. But we're coming to motivation here. So what I do is use our software called Investor's Edge. And so I'm looking for people that are out-of-state owners, non-owner occupieds. I'm looking for people that have high equity, lots of equity. I'm looking for people that may be in a bankruptcy or a divorce situation. I'm looking for people that may be burnout landlords, maybe a lien on the property that they didn't want. Those are different types of things I can look for, and that means there's some motivation. And I can find that because that's public record, and you can go down to the county recorders and do it, or you can use a software like ours that will pull all that for you and make it really easy. The next thing I'm looking for is equity. And so the way I look at equity is I like to use what's called an AVM, an automated value management system. This is something that banks use. It's pretty hard to get your hands on for just an individual person, but if you use a software like an Investor's Edge type software, you can actually know that and then you can decide how much is owed on the property. And the way that you do that is you look at the last recorded deed or note or deed on the property, and there's typically a mortgage associated with that. And if there is a mortgage, it's going to say we're liening this property for $200,000. Now that lien may have happened 10 years ago. So what we do is we say, okay, 10 years ago, what was the average interest rate? Maybe it was 8%, I don't recall. But let's just say it was 8%, and then we say 8%, and then we'll do what's called a reverse amortization, and then that'll make a determination and say, okay, if it was 8% and they made all their payments until now, how much would they owe on the property? And then it would tell us, well, they probably owe, if they bought it for $200,000, maybe they owe $180,000 on it. So then we take the AVM, which maybe the AVM says is $300,000, and we do the reverse amortization based upon the mortgage that they last had of $200,000, and now it says $80,000. Then it's going to tell me there's $120,000 worth of equity on that specific property. And this is just for example purposes. Now, a great software can do that type of stuff for you. Now with that, now I know I can go after people that have equity and have motivation. My favorite is to do driving for dollars. Drive around, find these properties, make phone calls to them, and see if they'd be interested in selling that property. Now you've got to make a lot of phone calls, you've got to make a lot of driving, you've got to commit a lot of time. This just doesn't happen overnight. So if you don't have thick skin, it's going to take some time. You're going to get a lot of no's and a lot of rejection. With that, then you will eventually find somebody, if you keep it up, that's willing to sell their property the way it sits, and they're willing to take less money because they'd rather have the speed and convenience over getting that higher price or having to go through repairs or deal with agents or pay agents or anything else. Because remember, when I make that offer, there's no agent fees, there's no nothing, which saves people an awful lot of money. So then what happens is I get that property under contract. Now I've got to find a new buyer to do that, which, by the way, when I put that property under contract, I put it under contract with contingencies, meaning if I find something I don't like out of the property, I can pull out of the contract and get any earnest money back. And by the way, the earnest money is not given to them, it's given to a title company. Now, I hope you're liking this. If so, hit that thumbs up button right now. So now the question is, you have the property under contract and you have a contingency where you can get out of it. That contingency is in place so you can do your inspections and due diligence. I also put it in place to make sure I can find a new buyer if I'm wholesaling the property. If I'm wholesaling that property, the next thing is I need to find cash buyers. Now, cash buyers doesn't mean they're paying cash. It also can mean they're paying with hard money, similar to what we do here at Do Hard Money and providing money for people that are wanting to do those, in addition to the tools and resources and software and all kinds of other cool stuff. If you need some help, give us a holler. But I need to find cash buyers. And so one of the other things we use is our Investors Edge software. We can see who bought a property in that same zip code in the last 6 months and paid cash for it or got a hard money loan. I can then call those people, or I can send a postcard to those people and say, I've got a property in this area, and are you interested? Or you can do what's called reverse wholesaling, where I actually find people that are cash buyers within a specific zip code. Once I find them, I call them and say, what are you looking for? And then I can go targeting properties that are motivated sellers that meet those criterias, and so that I know when I find it, I've got somebody that's willing to buy it right away. The great thing about this wholesaling is I can do it with no money down. I may have to spend a little bit of money on some marketing costs or some lists or those things, but when it comes to actually doing that, most cases don't have to sign on a loan, or if I do sign on a loan, it's only short term for a week or for 2 weeks in the interim until that new buyer is buying the property from me. I can typically do it regardless of my credit or anything else like that. That's why wholesaling is so attractive, and that's how you can do no money down wholesaling. Is you find this property for $100,000, you find somebody that's willing to buy it for $120,000, you make the spread in the middle, they buy the property, they then take care of the rehab and everything else, and you're out of the deal. So your only costs you're dealing with is some software costs, maybe some marketing costs, which if you do it right can be very nominal, especially considering the big paychecks that you can get when you're dealing with this. Now, to do this, you use what's called an assignment of contract. An assignment of contract is you assign the contract over to somebody else and they take your place. And it's going to vary based upon states, if this works great for you, if you need to use one of the other methods. But if you'd like to get a copy of my assignment of a contract template, I'll give it to you for free. Just text your email address to 435-294-0433. 435-294-0433. I'll put it in the comments below. Also below, I'll put a blog post of it in the Investor's Guide to Wholesaling Out of State. So if you have any interest in wholesaling properties out of state, you're going to want to check out that guide, which is in, I'm going to link it to our blog below. I also have a video on can you wholesale a pre-foreclosure. So if you're interested in going after pre-foreclosures, check it out. Also, check us out over at dohardmoney.com. We've got tools, tips, tricks, softwares, and money to help you in real estate investing. Otherwise, make it a very profitable day, and bye for now.